Dr. Sarah Chen's breath fogged the reinforced viewport as she stared at the massive structure emerging from beneath Mars' southern polar ice. The excavation lights cast long shadows across the crystalline surface, revealing glimpses of metallic hull plating that hadn't seen light in thousands of years. After 15 years of searching, the Quantum Archaeological Survey had finally found what ancient texts had only hinted at: proof that humanity's ancestors had mastered space travel long before recorded history. Signal strength increasing, reported Dr. Marcus Rivera from his station in the mobile command center. Whatever's down there, it's starting to wake up. His dark eyes remained fixed on the quantum resonance scanner, watching as patterns of energy began flowing through previously dormant circuitry. Sarah pressed her hand against the cold viewport, struggling to process the implications of what lay before them. The vessel, if that's what it truly was, stretched for nearly 2 kilometers beneath the ice. Its sleek design spoke of technological advancement far beyond anything humanity currently possessed. Yet the neural interface patterns they detected were unmistakably human in origin. Dr. Chen called out Lisa Wong, their communications specialist. "We're getting a priority message from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Santos needs to speak with you immediately." The young woman's voice carried an edge of tension that made Sarah turn away from the viewport. The Admiral's hologram materialized in the command center, his weathered face grave. "Doctor, I'm afraid we don't have time for careful archaeological procedures anymore. 78 unknown objects just appeared beyond Neptune's orbit. They're massive, they're accelerating toward Earth, and they're not responding to any attempts at communication." Sarah felt her throat tighten. "Sir, we've barely begun to understand what we found here. The integration protocols alone could take months to decode." "You have 48 hours, Santos interrupted. "Whatever's coming, our orbital defense grid won't be enough to stop it. We need those ships, Doctor. Humanity needs them." The command center fell silent as the hologram faded. Sarah turned back to the viewport, studying the ancient vessel's graceful lines. Her team had translated enough of the warning glyphs to know why their ancestors had hidden this fleet beneath the Martian ice. They had been preparing for something, a threat so grave that they dedicated vast resources to creating a defensive force that could endure millennia of dormancy. "Begin primary power initialization," she ordered, straightening her shoulders. "And get me a direct link to the quantum archaeology teams at the other excavation sites. If we're going to resurrect this fleet, we'll need every ship we can find." The next 36 hours passed in a blur of activity. As Sarah's team worked to understand the ancient vessel systems, more ships were discovered at dig sites across Mars. Each one carried the same warning glyphs, the same dormant but incredibly advanced technology. The fleet had been divided and hidden to ensure at least some vessels would survive to defend Earth when they were needed most. "Neural interface is online," Marcus announced, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "The ship's quantum core is accepting the initialization sequence." "But Dr. Chen, there's something else. The ship's memory banks. They're not just technical data. They're trying to tell us something." Sarah hurried to his station, studying the streams of data flowing across his screens. The ancient vessel wasn't just a weapon platform. It was a messenger carrying vital information across the ages. As she began translating the quantum-encoded data, her eyes widened. "This can't be right," she whispered. "According to these records, humanity didn't originate on Earth. We were the guardians, an advanced civilization tasked with protecting this sector of space from—" She swallowed hard. "From them. The ones who are returning now." Lisa's console suddenly erupted with alerts. Multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel inside lunar orbit. "There? Oh God." The young woman's face paled as she brought up the visual feed on the main screen. The vessels emerging from FTL were biological in nature, massive crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light. Their surfaces rippled and shifted, organic weapons ports opening like hungry mouths. They were beautiful in their alien perfection and utterly terrifying. "The Ravagers," Sarah breathed, reading from the ancient data. They seed worlds with their bioengineered horrors, breaking down civilizations piece by piece until nothing remains. And they've come to finish what they started thousands of years ago. Admiral Santos' hologram appeared again, his expression grim. "Doctor, we're detecting energy buildups in the alien fleet. They're preparing to launch some kind of biological payload toward Earth. Please tell me you have good news." Sarah straightened, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. "The neural interfaces are online, Admiral. The ship's quantum cores are reaching optimal power levels. But sir, we're not just bringing weapons online. We're waking up humanity's true legacy." She turned to her team, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their faces. "Our ancestors knew this day would come. They left us these ships, this technology, not just as tools, but as a reminder of who we really are. We're not just humans struggling to reach the stars." She gestured to the ancient vessel humming with power beneath them. "We're the descendants of star travelers, of guardians who once stood watch over this entire sector of space. And it's time to remind these ravagers why they feared us so much that they spent millennia trying to make us forget our true nature." Marcus's console pinged as new data flooded in. "Dr. Chen, quantum signatures from the other excavation sites. They're all coming online. 17 ships total. The neural interfaces are synchronized and waiting for activation." Through the viewport, Sarah watched as sections of Martian ice sublimated away, revealing more of the ancient vessel's hull. Its surface was beginning to pulse with the same ethereal light she'd seen in the historical records, a sign that its quantum core was approaching full power. Similar reports were coming in from dig sites across the Red Planet as humanity's forgotten guardians stirred from their long slumber. "Admiral," she said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands, "the Sentinel fleet is awakening. Request permission to initiate neural interface protocols and assume command of the defensive force." Santos nodded gravely. "Granted, Doctor. And Sarah, give them hell." As Sarah strapped herself into the neural interface cradle, she felt a moment of profound connection with those ancient ancestors who had planned for this moment. They had hidden their most advanced technology, allowed humanity to develop naturally while keeping these weapons in reserve. Not out of fear or weakness, but because they knew that when the time came, when Earth truly needed defending, their descendants would rediscover not just the tools, but the strength that had made humanity the guardians of this sector so long ago. The neural interface activated, and Sarah gasped as her consciousness expanded to encompass the ancient vessel. Through its sensors, she could see the other ships rising from their icy tombs across Mars' surface, their quantum cores singing in harmony. The Ravager fleet hung in space beyond Luna, their biological weapons primed to rain destruction on Earth. But humanity was done hiding, done forgetting. The Sentinel fleet was awake, and Earth's guardians were ready to fulfill their ancient duty once more. The neural interface cradle hummed as it synchronized with Sarah's brainwave patterns, connecting her consciousness to the ancient vessel's quantum core. Through the ship's sensors, she perceived space in ways human eyes never could, watching quantum fields ripple and flow, seeing the delicate dance of subatomic particles that held reality together. The Ravager bioships hung in high Earth orbit like dark stars, their crystalline forms pulsing with malevolent energy. "Neural synchronization at 80%, Marcus reported, his voice seeming to come from both the command center and directly into Sarah's mind. The other interface pilots are reporting similar readings. "Dr. Chen, you're our lead ship, designation Sentinel Prime." Sarah felt the vessel responding to her thoughts, its systems awakening fully for the first time in millennia. The quantum core sang through her consciousness, revealing capabilities that seemed to defy the laws of physics as humanity understood them. These weren't just spaceships. They were extensions of human consciousness, designed to channel humanity's greatest strengths. Multiple launches detected from the Ravager fleet. Lisa's voice cut through Sarah's wonder. Biological payload pods entering Earth's atmosphere. Impact prediction showing major population centers as primary targets. Through Sentinel Prime's advanced sensors, Sarah tracked the pod's descent. They were carrying something worse than simple weapons. Each one contained engineered horrors designed to tear civilization apart from within. The Ravagers didn't just want to destroy humanity. They wanted to break its spirit first. "Not this time," Sarah whispered, her words echoing through the quantum link to the other 16 ships. "Sentinel Fleet, power to defensive systems. Show us what our ancestors left us to work with." The response was immediate and breathtaking. Quantum fields shimmered around each vessel as ancient weapons came online. The ship's hulls, which had appeared solid metallic gray, began shifting and flowing like liquid mercury. Sarah understood now. The vessels were partially organic themselves, but engineered to work in perfect harmony with human consciousness rather than trying to dominate it like the Ravager bioships. "Admiral Santos," Sarah called through the command link, "we're registering multiple defense systems coming online. Request permission to engage the invasion pods before they enter the atmosphere." "Granted," Santos replied tersely. "Our conventional forces will coordinate with your fleet. Show us what these ships can do, Doctor." Sarah reached out through the neural interface, feeling the other pilots connecting with their vessels. Together, they were more than individual ships. They were becoming a unified defensive force, just as their ancestors had intended. The quantum cores pulsed in harmony as ancient targeting systems locked onto the falling pods. "Initiating containment protocols," Sarah announced, the words flowing naturally as the ship's knowledge merged with her consciousness. Streams of quantum energy erupted from the Sentinel vessels, creating a web of interconnected fields around Earth. The biological pods slammed into these fields and stopped, suspended in space like insects in amber. "My God," Marcus breathed. "The fields aren't just stopping them. They're breaking down the biological components at a molecular level. These ships aren't just defensive platforms. They're carrying the most advanced biotechnology humanity has ever seen." The Ravager fleet responded immediately, their crystalline forms shifting as organic weapon ports opened across their hulls. Streams of living plasma erupted toward the Sentinel fleet, but the ancient vessels were already moving. Sarah felt her ship responding to her thoughts with impossible speed and grace, quantum fields deflecting the attacks while the vessel's organic components adapted and learned from each engagement. "Multiple Ravager vessels attempting to flank our position," Lisa reported. "They're trying to find gaps in the defensive screen." Sarah smiled grimly as she accessed more of the ship's capabilities. "Let them try. Sentinel Fleet, initiate combat pattern Alpha 7. The knowledge of ancient battle strategies flowed through the neural interface, guiding her actions. The 17 ships moved in perfect coordination, their quantum fields overlapping and reinforcing each other. Through Sentinel Prime sensors, Sarah watched as the Ravager ships launched a second wave of attacks. But this time, the ancient vessels were ready. Quantum-enhanced matter beams lanced out from the Sentinel fleet, cutting through the Ravager's biological armor like scalpels through flesh. 3 enemy ships fell back, their crystalline forms cracking and splintering under the precise assault. "Dr. Chen," Marcus called out, excitement evident in his voice, "I'm detecting new data streams in the quantum core. The ship, it's teaching us. Every engagement is adding to our understanding of both its capabilities and the enemy's weaknesses." Sarah nodded, feeling the flow of information through the neural interface. These ships weren't just built for combat. They're teaching tools, designed to help us reclaim our heritage as quickly as possible. She directed her attention to the tactical display, watching as the Ravager fleet regrouped for another assault. "Admiral Santos, be advised. We're reading massive energy buildups in the enemy fleet. They're preparing for a full-scale attack." "Understood, Doctor. Our conventional forces are in position to support your fleet. Whatever these bastards throw at us, we face it together." Santos' voice carried the weight of command, but also a note of pride. Humanity might have forgotten its ancient legacy, but it had never lost the courage and determination that had made it worthy of being the sector's guardians. The Ravager flagship suddenly pulsed with blinding energy, its crystalline form elongating as it channeled power into what appeared to be a massive biological weapon. Sarah felt Sentinel Prime's warning systems screaming through the neural interface. Whatever the enemy was preparing, it was designed to overwhelm conventional defenses through sheer destructive power. But the ancient fleet had been built to counter exactly this kind of threat. Sarah reached deeper into the quantum core, accessing systems that had barely stirred until now. The other pilots followed her lead, their ships moving into a new formation as energy began building in their quantum cores. All ships, prepare for synchronized quantum field projection, Sarah commanded, her consciousness expanding to encompass the entire fleet. Our ancestors left us these ships for a reason. Let's show these Ravagers why they went to so much trouble to make us forget who we really are. The Sentinel fleet's quantum cores pulsed as one, creating a cascading wave of energy that rippled through space-time itself. Sarah felt the power flowing through her, through all of them, as humanity's ancient guardians prepared to remind the galaxy why they had once been feared and respected across this entire sector of space. The real battle for Earth was about to begin. The quantum cascade wave rippled through space, its energy interacting with the Ravager flagship's biological weapon. For a moment, the two forces struggled against each other, ancient human technology versus the apex of biological engineering. Then the cascade wave shifted, adapting its frequency in response to the neural input from the Sentinel fleet's pilots. The Ravager weapon began to destabilize, its crystalline structure fracturing under the precision assault. Energy patterns are collapsing in the enemy flagship, Marcus reported, his voice filled with awe. The quantum field isn't just disrupting their weapon. It's rewriting the biological codes in their ship's structure. Sarah felt the knowledge flowing through her neural interface, understanding blooming in her mind. That's how we defeated them before, she realized. Our ancestors didn't just build better weapons, they learned to turn the Ravagers' biological technology against them. Through Sentinel Prime sensors, she watched as sections of the enemy flagship began to crystallize and shatter, its living components unable to maintain cohesion under the quantum assault. The remaining Ravager ships pulled back, their formations shifting as they reassessed their strategy. But Sarah's attention was drawn to new data streaming through the neural interface, memories and knowledge left behind by the fleet's creators. Dr. Chen, Lisa's voice was urgent. We're detecting massive energy signatures from Mars. Something's happening at the other dig sites. The quantum sensors revealed structures emerging from beneath Mars' surface. Not more ships, but vast technological complexes that had laid dormant alongside the fleet. Ancient facilities designed to support and maintain the vessels were awakening, responding to the activation of the Sentinel fleet. They didn't just leave us weapons, Sarah breathed, the realization striking her like a physical force. They left us everything we'd need to rebuild, to reclaim our place among the stars. Admiral Santos' hologram appeared in the command center, his expression a mix of concern and hope. Doctor, our ground forces are engaging Ravager biological weapons in multiple cities. We need the fleet's support, but we can't leave Earth's orbit undefended. Sarah nodded, already feeling the ship's systems adapting to the new challenge. Sentinel Fleet, initiate split protocol defense pattern. Ships 7 through 12. Maintain high orbit and quantum screen coverage. The rest of us will provide close air support for ground forces. The fleet moved with fluid precision, the ancient vessels demonstrating maneuverability that seemed to ignore the normal laws of physics. As Sarah guided Sentinel Prime into Earth's atmosphere, the ship's organic components shifted, adapting to atmospheric flight while maintaining its quantum field integrity. The scene below was chaos. Ravager bioweapons, twisted creations designed to spread terror and destruction, were emerging from their impact pods in major cities. But humanity wasn't fighting alone anymore. The Sentinel fleet's quantum fields extended downward, creating protective bubbles around civilian populations, while precision strikes eliminated the alien threats. New data packet incoming through the quantum core, Marcus announced. Dr. Chin, this is incredible. The ships are unlocking more of their historical archives. They're showing us what Earth was like before, when humanity first rose to become the sector's guardians. The images flowed through Sarah's neural interface, Earth as it had been thousands of years ago, a gleaming center of civilization with cities that reached into the clouds and ships that sailed between the stars. She saw how humanity had developed both technology and consciousness, learning to bridge the gap between organic and artificial, between matter and energy. Why did we forget? She wondered aloud. Why did our ancestors hide all of this and let us start over? The answer came through the quantum link, carried in fragments of ancient data. The Ravagers hadn't just attacked with biological weapons. They had unleashed a weapon designed to target human consciousness itself, trying to erase the very essence of what made humanity capable of wielding such advanced technology. The only defense had been to hide the truth, to let humanity rebuild naturally while keeping the Sentinel fleet in reserve, waiting for the day when Earth would need its guardians to remember their true nature. A massive explosion rocked the ship as a Ravager bioform scored a direct hit on their quantum shields. Sarah's focus snapped back to the present as she directed Sentinel Prime into evasive maneuvers. The enemy was adapting, learning from each engagement just as the human ships were. Multiple Ravager ships breaching the lunar defense perimeter, Lisa reported. They're different from the others. These look like they were specifically engineered to counter our quantum technology. Sarah felt a chill run through her as she studied the new threats through the ship's sensors. The Ravagers weren't just launching an invasion. They were executing a carefully planned strategy, one they had spent thousands of years perfecting. They had expected humanity to eventually rediscover its ancient technology, and they had prepared accordingly. But the Ravagers had made one crucial mistake. In all their careful planning, in all their biological engineering and tactical preparations, they had forgotten the most fundamental truth about humanity. The same truth that had made them fear us enough to try to erase our memory in the first place. "Admiral," Sarah called out, her voice steady as new tactical options bloomed in her mind. "I need authorization to unlock the fleet's deep core protocols. Our ancestors left us more than just defensive capabilities. They left us a way to remind the Ravagers why humanity was chosen to guard this sector." Santos studied her for a long moment before nodding. "Whatever you need, Doctor. Earth stands with you." Sarah reached out through the neural interface, connecting with the other pilots as they accessed deeper levels of their ship's quantum cores. The ancient vessels hummed with power as long-dormant systems awakened, their organic components shifting into new configurations as humanity prepared to demonstrate once again why it had once been considered the greatest force for order in this sector of space. The true power of the Sentinel fleet was about to be unleashed, and the Ravagers were about to learn that some lessons couldn't be erased, not even by thousands of years of forced forgetting. The deep core protocols unlocked like a flowering consciousness in Sarah's mind, revealing capabilities that redefined her understanding of what the ancient fleet could do. Through Sentinel Prime's quantum sensors, she perceived layers of reality that human science had only theorized about, dimensions of existence where the lines between organic and mechanical, energy and matter, thought and action simply ceased to exist. Quantum core synchronization reaching unprecedented levels, Marcus reported, his voice tight with excitement. The ships aren't just communicating anymore. They're merging their fields, creating some kind of unified consciousness network. Sarah felt it happening, felt her awareness expanding as the neural interface connected her not just to her ship, but to the entire fleet. The other pilots' experiences flowed through her mind. Lieutenant Kim's desperate battle against Ravager bioforms over Tokyo, Captain Rodriguez's precision defense of London, Dr. Patel's quantum screen maintaining the last line of orbital defense. They were becoming something greater than the sum of their parts, just as their ancestors had intended. Multiple biosignature anomalies detected in the Ravager fleet, Lisa announced. Their ships, they're changing configuration. Whatever they've been holding in reserve, they're committing to it now. The enemy vessels were transforming. their crystalline structures flowing like liquid as they merged into larger, more terrifying forms. What had been a fleet of individual ships was becoming a single massive entity, a biological superweapon that blotted out the stars themselves. This is what they used before, Sarah realized, ancient memories flowing through the quantum link. This is how they nearly destroyed us last time. They don't just adapt. They combine and evolve, becoming a single perfect organism designed to counter whatever threatens them. Admiral Santos' hologram flickered as interference from the Ravager transformation disrupted normal communications. "Doctor, our conventional weapons are having no effect. The quantum screens are starting to fail under the increased pressure. If you have a plan, now would be the time." Sarah reached deeper into the ancient ship's systems, letting the knowledge flow through her. Our ancestors knew this would happen. They knew the Ravagers would remember our weaknesses, would try to overwhelm us with sheer biological power. That's why they built these ships, to do more than just fight. Through the neural interface, she sent commands rippling through the Sentinel fleet. The vessel's organic components began to shift, their quantum fields pulsing with new patterns of energy. On Mars, the recently awakened technological complexes hummed with power as they channeled energy through ancient conduits that had laid dormant for millennia. "Dr. Chen," Marcus called out, "the ship's quantum core is showing signs of... I don't even know how to describe it. It's like it's reaching into other dimensions, pulling in energy that shouldn't exist in normal spacetime." Sarah nodded, feeling the power building through the neural link. The Ravagers thought they could overcome us through evolution, through endless adaptation. But our ancestors understood something they never could. True advancement isn't just about becoming stronger or more complex. It's about transcending the very boundaries of what seems possible. The Sentinel fleet moved into a new formation, their quantum fields merging into patterns that defied conventional physics. Each ship became a node in a vast network of energy and consciousness, channeling power from dimensions beyond normal spacetime. The Martian facilities activated in perfect synchronization, adding their ancient energies to the growing matrix. "Energy readings off the scale," Lisa reported, her voice filled with awe. "The quantum fields, they're not just merging anymore. They're creating something new." Through the ship's enhanced sensors, Sarah watched as reality itself seemed to twist and fold around the fleet. The ancient vessels weren't just fighting the Ravagers. They were rewriting the fundamental rules of engagement. Quantum fields became bridges between dimensions, allowing the fleet to exist simultaneously in multiple states of reality. The massive Ravager entity reacted immediately, its biological weapons adapting to try to counter the new threat. But for the first time, the enemy's evolutionary advantages began to work against them. As their unified form tried to adapt to attacks coming from multiple dimensional states simultaneously, their carefully engineered biology started to break down. "Their molecular structure is destabilizing," Marcus announced. "The quantum fields aren't just attacking them. They're disrupting the very principles that allow their biological engineering to function." Sarah felt a surge of understanding through the neural interface. That's why our ancestors built these ships this way. The Ravagers based their entire civilization on biological adaptation, on being able to evolve to counter any threat. But you can't evolve to fight something that exists outside the normal laws of physics. You can't adapt to face an enemy that can attack you from dimensions you can't even perceive. The massive Ravager entity writhed in space, its crystalline structure fracturing, as it tried desperately to cope with attacks it couldn't comprehend. Sections of its unified form began to break apart, the carefully engineered biological components turning against each other as quantum disruption cascaded through its systems. "Admiral," Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the strain of maintaining the dimensional interface, "now would be the time for a coordinated strike. While they're trying to adapt to our quantum attacks, they're vulnerable to conventional weapons." Santos nodded grimly. "All Earth Defense Forces, this is your moment. Give them everything we've got." Missiles, energy weapons, and particle beams lanced out from Earth's combined military forces, striking the destabilized Ravager entity from every angle. The enemy's usually impenetrable biological armor, already weakened by the quantum assault, began to crack and shatter under the verage. But even as victory seemed within reach, Sarah felt a new danger emerging through the neural interface. The dimensional energies they were channeling were building toward a critical threshold. The ancient ships were pushing their quantum cores beyond their design limits, threatening to tear open the fabric of space-time itself. Dr. Chen, Marcus's voice was urgent. The quantum cores are reaching maximum saturation. If we maintain this level of dimensional interference much longer. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of command settling over her. Our ancestors knew the risks. They built these ships not just to fight, but to win at any cost. To ensure that humanity would have a future, no matter what sacrifices had to be made. Through the neural link, she could feel the other pilots' determination matching her own. They had awakened humanity's ancient legacy, and now they would prove themselves worthy of it, whatever the cost might be. Time seemed to flow differently in the space between dimensions. Through the neural interface, Sarah felt the quantum energies building to impossible levels as the Sentinel fleet maintained its assault on the fragmenting Ravager entity. Reality itself buckled and warped around them as ancient technology pushed the boundaries of what should have been possible. Core containment at critical levels, Marcus warned, his voice distorted by quantum interference. The dimensional rifts are becoming unstable. If we don't shut down soon, we risk creating a cascade that could tear apart the entire solar system. But Sarah's consciousness, expanded by the neural interface, perceived something the sensors couldn't detect. Deep within the massive Ravager entity, something was changing. The enemy's biological adaptations weren't just failing. They were revealing something that had been hidden for millennia. They're not just evolving anymore, she breathed, understanding flowing through the quantum link. They're remembering. The Ravagers, they weren't always like this. Our ancestors didn't just fight them, they tried to save them. Through the ship's enhanced perceptions, Sarah watched as layers of biological engineering began to peel away from the Ravager entity. Beneath the weapons and armor, beneath the endless adaptations and evolutionary horrors, glimpses of the original species began to emerge. Dr. Chen, Lisa's voice cut through her revelation. We're detecting a new signal from the enemy. It's different from anything we've seen, almost like they're trying to communicate. The signal pulsed through multiple dimensions, carrying fragments of memory and consciousness that had been buried beneath eons of biological manipulation. Sarah felt tears rolling down her cheeks as the truth revealed itself through the quantum link. The Ravagers were victims too, she said softly. They were one of the first species we protected, before something corrupted their development. Their biological engineering wasn't just a weapon, it was a prison, trapping their true consciousness beneath layers of programmed aggression. Admiral Santos's hologram flickered into view. Doctor, whatever's happening up there, we're detecting massive energy buildups in the enemy fleet. If that thing destabilizes in Earth orbit. No, Sarah interrupted, newfound purpose flowing through her. We haven't been awakening just weapons. We've been awakening the truth. Our ancestors weren't just sector guardians because they were powerful. They were chosen because they understood that true strength lies in preservation, not destruction. Through the neural interface, she reached out to the other pilots, their combined consciousness flowing through the quantum network. The Sentinel fleet's formation shifted, their dimensional fields altering from an attack pattern to something far more complex. All ships, initiate Protocol Omega, Sarah commanded. Our ancestors left us more than just the means to fight. They left us the knowledge to heal. The quantum cores pulsed with new energy as ancient systems activated. The fleet's organic components began resonating at frequencies that reached across dimensions, not to tear reality apart, but to mend what had been broken. The Martian facilities hummed with power, channeling energy through pathways that had waited millennia for this moment. The Ravager entity, Marcus reported in amazement, its biological structure isn't just breaking down anymore, it's reforming. The quantum fields are somehow reprogramming their very DNA. Layer by layer, the corrupted biological engineering began to fall away from the Ravager consciousness. The massive entity shuddered in space, its form shifting as ancient safeguards and hidden protocols awakened. This was the true purpose of the Sentinel fleet, not just to defend, but to restore what had been lost. Their original genetic pattern, Sarah explained, ancient knowledge flowing through her mind. Our ancestors preserved it within their own biological engineering, hidden so deep that not even the corruption could find it. They knew that someday we would remember not just how to fight, but how to heal. The dimensional rifts began to stabilize as the quantum network shifted its focus from combat to restoration. Throughout Earth's orbit, fragments of the Ravager entity were transforming, ancient consciousness awakening from beneath millennia of engineered hatred and aggression. "Admiral," Sarah called out, her voice filled with emotion, "have our forces stand down. What you're seeing, this is what humanity was meant to be. Not just warriors, but guardians in the truest sense, preservers of life and consciousness across the stars." The transformation rippled through space as the Ravager fleet's biological programming was rewritten at the quantum level. Where there had been twisted weapons of war, new forms emerged. Elegant crystalline vessels piloted by minds, finally free from their ancient prison. "We're receiving a transmission," Lisa announced, wonder in her voice. "It's from the transformed Ravager ships. They're thanking us. Their consciousness, their memories, they're returning." Sarah felt the weight of history settling around them as the quantum network began to power down. The Sentinel fleet had accomplished what their ancestors had failed to achieve, not just defeating the corruption, but healing it at its source. Through the neural interface, she watched as the transformed ships began to move, not in attack patterns, but in a dance of celebration and redemption. Humanity had not just defended Earth. They had restored balance to a conflict that had raged across millennia. "Dr. Chen," Admiral Santos said softly, "I think it's time you explain to Earth exactly what we've inherited. Not just the technology, but the responsibility." Sarah nodded, feeling the truth of humanity's legacy settling into her soul. "We were never meant to just fight wars, Admiral. We were chosen as guardians because we could do what no other species could: see beyond the surface, understand the difference between corruption and essence, and find ways to heal what others would simply destroy." As the Sentinel fleet descended into Earth's atmosphere, their quantum cores humming with ancient power, Sarah felt the future opening before them. Humanity had remembered not just its strength, but its purpose. The age of forgetting was over. In rediscovering their past, they had secured their future. Earth's guardians had awakened, and this time, they would never forget who they truly were, not just defenders of their world, but preservers of consciousness across the stars themselves.